What's going on, everybody? GoodMicWork Commentaries back at you with a very special This Day in History / PayPal donation video. Our friend Barry is at it again. This is now the fourth time he's taken advantage of this offer that I've extended to my entire audience, where any one-time donation of $100 or more on Patreon or on PayPal will get you a wrestling video on any wrestling-related topic that you want. This is the fifth video I've done so far in total, and I have two more on deck that will be released on the channel for the next couple of weeks. So very big thank you out to everybody for your support and your contributions, especially to Barry, who is on quite a roll here and really enjoys doing this and having me do these reviews. And so far, dude, you have really picked some good ones. The prior three that you asked me to do, the Vince McMahon DVD, the TNA Unbreakable review, and the Raw review from 1998 were all really fun shows. And I was so happy when you suggested this one because I'm not even really sure if I've gone back and taken a look at this show a second time since it's aired. I mean, maybe I have once or twice, but I remembered very little about this. So it was really fun to take a look back at this. And I'm not lying when I say I've been really happy with all four of your video choices so far. They've been really fun to do. By the way, you can find our friend Barry over on Twitter at BarryMK200. And he also has a YouTube channel. Now, you do primarily video game stuff, and you got a pretty good amount of subscribers on your channel, like 5,000. So go give his YouTube channel a look and give it a subscription. I will put the link to that right in the description below. It'll be right at the top. So go show Barry some love for basically being responsible for this video being made. So before we get started here, please, if you have not subscribed to my channel, click that subscribe button and make sure you click that notifications bell so you can be notified whenever I upload a video. Very important these days to do that on YouTube. And please get these likes up. These listeners have been very generous with their contributions, and I want to give them a good video with a good amount of views and a good amount of likes. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this trip down memory lane. So let's get those likes up to at least 200. I would really, really appreciate it. And if you would like to contribute to the channel in the future and you would like a video of your own done, like I said, you can go over to my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. You can donate over there, or you can go right to my website, GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com. Right on the top left-hand corner of the screen, there's a PayPal button. You can just click that and take care of your business there. So let's get into what we're going to talk about tonight, and that is WWE RAW Homecoming. Goes down on October 3rd, 2005. Today is the 13-year anniversary of this show. And this was when WWE returned to the USA Network after about, I guess, 5 years on TNN or Spike TV. So now they were back. They returned home to the USA Network, which I always, just the kid in me just prefers WWE to have some sort of a program on the USA Network. I really didn't like it, those 5 years that they were gone. It just didn't feel natural to me, you know? And TNN was such an odd choice, but I guess, you know, money talks. So WWE decided to leave the network. But now they're back. And it was funny the way they promoted the show. I felt like this was more of a WWE homecoming than a Raw homecoming because they had so many legends on the show. Like, this was a stacked show. I mean, the appearances, the talent, the names, the Hall of Famers alone that were in the same building that night was fucking incredible. You know, when I'm just looking at my notes right here on the screen in front of me, and I'm just looking at all these names that are all over the place. It's crazy. So I'm going to go through the show here right in order. We're going to talk about every little thing. And this was a very rare 3-hour show. WWE had not gone to 3 hours at this point, so this was a special episode where they were going to have a long 3-hour show with a lot of great matches and a lot of great segments and appearances and Hall of Famers. And this thing was really loaded. And it goes to show you how great Monday Night Raw used to be. I mean, even in 2005, I started losing interest a little bit in WWE. I mean, I would still eyeball it. I would still watch all the pay-per-views, but I wasn't following it the way I did in the Attitude Era. I remember at the time not being too thrilled with the years 2005 and 2006. I just felt like things were really changing, and I felt like the business, even by that point, was not resembling what it used to in the 80s and 90s and Attitude Era. It was starting to look a lot different. So even back in 2005, I was already starting to get soured on the business. But going back and looking at this show, I would love to have 2005 back. Because, oh my God, the shit that went down on this show. It wasn't all good. There was a couple of weird segments, but for the most part, this was a jam-packed Monday Night Raw. The event goes down in Dallas at the American Airlines Center, and the show opens with Mick Foley coming out to the ring. Huge mega pop for Foley, and he comes down to introduce Roddy Piper, which is really strange because it was a Piper's Pit. But the guest came out first to introduce the host. I found that odd, but maybe Mick Foley was he was a little bit more common on WWE TV at that time than Piper was, so they wanted to have Foley open instead of Piper, but I'm surprised they didn't introduce Piper and then have him introduce Foley. It felt backwards, but no big deal. That's just nitpicking. And Foley and Piper get in the ring, and they're talking back and forth on the mic a little bit, and Roddy Piper asks Mick Foley point blank when he's going to come back to the ring. And Foley was like, well, I already did that a year ago, and I believe he was referencing his little feud with Randy Orton in 2004, and says that he really doesn't have a desire to get back in the ring right now, because last time he did that, he got his ass kicked. But that would change, because this was October of 2005, and by the time we got to WrestleMania the following year, he was in the ring with Edge. So we would see Foley come back on WWE TV more and more frequently as we went forward here. And as the two of them are having a pretty friendly conversation, out comes Randy Orton, Mick Foley's former nemesis. Randy Orton is out there with his dad. Always great to see Cowboy Bob. And they come out to the ring, and Randy Orton at this time is a SmackDown guy, but since it's WWE's Homecoming, they've got both brands there. So this is also kind of, SmackDown would be the go-home show to No Mercy that was coming up the Sunday after this, in which I believe Orton was facing The Undertaker in like a casket match or something. So he was right in the middle of that long 4 pay-per-view or 5 pay-per-view program with The Undertaker, which was great shit back in 2005, the way they traded victories like that. So Randy Orton was hot. And he got in the ring, and he's talking shit to both guys, and then Randy Orton gets in Piper's face, starts yelling at him, and starts screaming at him, and it was funny to see Piper kind of look past Randy Orton and look over at Ace Orton. Like, are you kidding me? Like, after all the shit that me and you have been through in our lives, you're going to let your son talk to me like this? It was almost like utter disbelief in Piper's face, looking at Bob, that his kid would do this. And eventually, Randy Orton would push Roddy Piper, and Piper would deck him and drop him with a punch. They would start fighting. There would be a pull-apart as Ace and Foley try to pull the two men apart. And then Bob Orton catches Mick Foley with a sucker punch, allowing Randy Orton to nail Roddy Piper with the RKO, and then he nails Foley with an RKO too. So the Orton family completely laid waste to Mick Foley and Roddy Piper, and that was pretty much your opening segment. The first match we got on the show was a fucking doozy. My God. 30-minute Iron Man match between Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle. Pass the lotion. And this was billed as the rubber match because they had the great, amazing match at WrestleMania 21, one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time, where Kurt Angle won, and then I believe they wrestled again at Vengeance. I could be wrong about that. Pretty sure it was Vengeance that year, and Shawn Michaels was able to win that match. So now they're going to do an Iron Man match on Raw Homecoming to see who's going to, win out in this feud. And the match was great. What I liked about it especially is all of the legends, or a good handful of the legends anyway, that they had invited to Raw and we would see in the ring later. They were all in the front row for this match, which was probably a pretty cool thing just for Shawn and Angle to wrestle and perform in front of those legends and perform like an amazing fucking match. I mean, Hillbilly and Coco Beware and DiBiase and all those guys on the outside of the ring, they were probably fucking marking out for this match. I mean, it was great. It wound up being 2-2 going down to the final seconds there, and they did the spot where Shawn's in the ankle lock. He won't tap out. The clock is ticking down to 0. Shawn finally counters the ankle lock, rolls out of it, nails Kurt Angle with a super kick, and falls on top of him 2 seconds too late. The referee began counting 3 when there was about 1 second left on the clock. So just a little bit too late there, and the match ended in a draw. And it's one of those rare times where I didn't mind the draw. There was a few fans in the crowd. You could hear a few boos, but for the most part, the fans were applauding the match, and I was too. I didn't give a shit that it was a draw. It was great. Very dramatic at the end there. Shawn, of course, as the babyface, grabs the microphone and demands 5 more minutes, but Kurt Angle walks away. And it was pretty cool. And as Shawn left the ring, he kind of gave everybody hugs on the outside of the ring, including Moolah and Mae Young, and kind of paid tribute to the legends there. That was cool. And man, the whole match, just watching Shawn and Angle. I'm so glad we got to see those two together, because that's a dream match that could have been missed had Shawn not come back or things didn't work out with Kurt Angle. The fact that we were able to get that match before Angle left for TNA and before Shawn retired, I'm so happy about. A lot of people speak of the dream match between Kurt Angle and Bret Hart, how cool it would have been to have seen that match. And I agree, I would have loved to see Bret Hart and Kurt Angle, but I think the matches between Shawn and Angle were better than what Angle and Bret could have done. I know Bret and Angle would have put on some great matches, probably a completely different style than what Angle and Shawn were doing, but I still think the matches could be really good. But if I had my choice, and Angle could only wrestle one guy, Shawn or Brett, I think I'm going to pick Shawn every time. These series of matches between these guys were fucking awesome. So I don't give enough credit to 2005. There was some good shit going on back then. Next up, we had Lillian Garcia in the ring. She announces one of the many legends on hand for the show in the front row, Kevin Von Erich, and they gave him kind of his own personal introduction because they were in Dallas, and the Von Erichs were huge in Dallas. And I'll be damned if Kevin Von Erich didn't get close to the pop of the night. I mean, it was up there. I mean, it might not be Stone Cold Pop or whatever, but when she announced his name, the fucking building exploded. So really cool to see a lot of old school wrestling fans still hanging around shows, even in 2005, and, know the Von Erichs and, of course, know their history. Especially in Dallas. So that was kind of a nice little moment. And after that, Lillian would do some more work in the ring. This was fucking hilarious. She's reciting, I guess, what has to be a prepared statement, and she's going to introduce Vince McMahon. She announces him as handsome and well-endowed and a billionaire and a guy that single-handedly changed wrestling, in this just grand speech about how great Vince McMahon is. And his No Chance in Hell music hits. He starts power walking down to the ring. And this was a long segment. I mean, it was a good segment and entertaining, but at the same time, this did not need to go 20 minutes. I think it was 20 minutes. It might have even gone longer than 20 minutes. But Vince is in the ring bragging, and he starts talking about Stone Cold. And he starts referencing a few times when he got the better of Austin, and they showed the footage of when Vince McMahon actually beat him in 1999. I think this was during their build to the St. Valentine's Massacre cage match. Vince actually called this 1998 when this happened, and it was actually 1999. And they showed the footage on the screen of Vince beating him. And then Vince wants to show some more footage of other times that he's gotten the best of Austin. And that's when the glass shattered. Stone Cold comes out and makes his entrance. The fans are going nuts. And Austin has some footage of his own. And he goes on to show the footage from 1998 when he was fired and then brought back and had Vince held hostage and had a gun to his head in the ring, and Vince pissed his pants. He also showed the footage of when he filled the Corvette with concrete and the beer truck, and they were just having a funny little back and forth there. Eventually, you know what's coming. Vince eats a stunner, and Vince sells it like he's literally been shot in the head. He goes down, Austin celebrating, and then Shane McMahon's music hits. And Shane comes out to the ramp, he's dancing, he makes his way to the ring, and the second he gets into the ring, bam, he eats a stunner. So now you got both of the McMahon men laid out cold in the ring, and that's when Stephanie's music hits. And I forgot how badly I hated her theme song back then. I have hated all of her theme songs, but this one was especially bad, but I'm gonna give her a pass because she looked delicious. Stephanie looked great back then in 2005, and she gets in the ring, starts yelling at Stone Cold and grabbing his arm, and he says, "Oh man, you're trying to flirt with me, aren't you?" And then he asks Stephanie to give him a kiss on the cheek, and she lays into him with one of her classic, famous, trademark bitch slaps right across Austin's face, and then she eats a stunner. Man, 2005. You could do anything. So Austin then beats up Stephanie, and then he's celebrating in the ring by himself again, and then we get Linda. I always loved how she came out to the old WrestleMania theme song. That was kind of her entrance music, which was cool. She comes out to the ring, and this goes on way too long. You've got all three members of the McMahon family out cold for what felt like an hour. Like Vince eats one stunner and he's unconscious for an hour. What the fuck's going on? I mean, I know the stunner's a devastating move and everything, but I think you can get up from one of these things after a certain amount of time. But they're laying there during this entire exchange between Austin and Linda, and this I didn't really like. It's not like I had a problem with it or anything. You know, I understood the entertaining segment that the Austin's going to stun the entire McMahon family, but what led up to this and how long it took to get there was kind of getting annoying at the end of this. Austin and Linda were talking, and Austin kind of accuses her of flirting with him as well, and then he asks her to kiss him. She demands an apology from Austin, and he plays along and says, "I apologize." There was really a really awkward kind of face-to-face moment with the two of them there where they were just a little bit too close. It was making my skin crawl a little bit, but eventually Austin gets the Miller Lights tossed into him, and he cheers as Linda. And even when she takes a sip of the beer, I had paused the screen to take a screenshot, and I paused it at this most perfect time where Linda literally has like a demented look on her face, but really she's got a mouthful of beer and she's just trying to swallow it. But the look on her face, she looks batshit crazy. And I thought that was really funny. I'm sure I'll put that up here on the screen for you to see. But after they do the toast, You know what's coming. Linda then takes a stunner. Linda McMahon gets stunned. And you guys have to help me out. Was this the only time this has happened? To me, it feels like there's been one other time that Austin, like, stunned all of them. I might be wrong about that, but, you know, I felt like this segment would have been fine. It just needed to be shaved down at least 5 minutes. I mean, maybe even 7 or 8. It did not need to take up this much of the show. But it was entertaining. The fans had fun. Austin beat the hell out of the whole McMahon family and beat the hell out of a couple of women. So you got woman beating on Monday Night Raw all the way as recent as 2005. And man, shit was just so different back then. Sometimes I can't tell if it was for better or worse. This is one of those segments where I was kind of in between. We then get a pretty big match that was only allotted half of the time that Stone Cold and the McMahon family got. We got a 10-minute ladder match between Edge and Matt Hardy. Edge's Money in the Bank briefcase that he won at WrestleMania 21 was on the line, and this was also a loser leaves Raw match. So there was a lot to lose in this match, especially for Edge. He could lose his briefcase and head over to SmackDown. So this was kind of the blow-off because Hardy had come back after they rehired him and he, you know, agreed to make the peace with Edge and Lita after that very crazy affair that the two of them had. I've spoken on that many times in the past, but I still find the situation very weird and very crazy that these two guys were able to work together so closely after all of this happened. You know, the affair and the lies and all the drama between the two, and then Matt getting let go, and then coming back. And Matt looked great upon his comeback. He was in great shape, and I was happy to see him back. I was glad that WWE did the right thing because they were put in a position where just to keep the peace, somebody had to go. So they looked at all of the talent, all parties involved there, Edge, Lita, and Matt, and if you got to get rid of one of them, they felt Matt was the most expendable, and they chose to cut him, which really wasn't fair. He didn't do anything wrong. So I was always upset, and I think a lot of the fans were too. They were pissed at WWE. It reminded me a lot of when WWE let go Emma, when she was like caught shoplifting, and they've had a couple of other firings. The fans are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Chill the fuck out, WWE. Daniel Bryan is another name that comes to mind. So this was one of those times where WWE actually listened to the fans, brought Matt back. They had a couple of matches. They worked SummerSlam and Edge won. Then they had a cage match, which I believe Matt won. So this was kind of the rubber match too. And this was going to be the blow off of the whole thing. This was a pretty good match, and it had a really brilliant opening as Edge and Lita, and let me just say, Lita, god damn, was she hot in this. I mean, I just have to blurt that out. If you haven't gone back and seen this Raw in a while, go take a look at Lita. In 2005, Lita, I think, was like the hottest Lita. She was just so smoking awesome, kind of slutty hot, because she was a heel and she was, you know, the things she did with Edge. I just loved her, and she looked incredible on this night. And as they're making their entrance and come through the entranceway, Edge sends Lita to the ring, and he hides off to the side. You can see Edge crouched down over by the Raw set. And so Lita is kind of standing in the middle of the aisleway as Matt comes out. He's looking at her, and then Edge blindsides Matt when he's not looking on the stage, and then runs down to the ring full speed and grabs the ladder and tries to climb up quickly and grab the briefcase and end it just like that. Fucking brilliant. It's about time somebody used their fucking heads when it comes to a ladder match. The one thing I've always hated about ladder matches is how delayed everything is. You know, because the guys are waiting for their opponent to be on cue and make the spot. So they climb up the ladder very slowly. Takes them forever to set the fucking thing up. And I love that. Edge just took advantage of that and did something that a regular person would do if they were in a ladder match. But Matt is able to stop him. They have a good little short, brutal match. And the finish was great. The finish saw Matt Hardy climbing up to grab the briefcase. Edge, I think, is knocked out somewhere. And just as he's about to grab it, Lita pushes over the ladder and Matt is hanging. He's dangling from the hook. And then Edge winds up grabbing his feet. And this was crazy. And he starts swinging him back and forth. And as he swings close to the ring ropes near the entranceway, Matt falls and lands perfectly, right on his stomach, right on the top rope, and just kind of hangs himself out to dry. And that's when Edge goes over and ties his hands in the rope, or his arms in the rope, Andre the Giant style. And then Lita jumps on Matt's back and puts him in a crucifix, completely restraining him, where he can't move, can't go anywhere, and he has to watch as Edge climbs up the ladder and grabs the briefcase. Classic shit. I still feel like Matt got the raw end of the deal in this. You know, WWE did the right thing by bringing him back, but they're like, you know, now you're going to have to work a program with the guy that not only stole your girlfriend, but you're going to have to lose to him and then watch them make out in front of you on fucking TV. It just blows my mind that Matt had the professionalism to do this. And it blows my mind even more, and I'm so happy that Matt and Edge have made peace and they're friends to this day, and they've done appearances together now, and this seemed like something at the time, because I remember this well. I remember the dirt sheets and what the internet was reporting about this whole situation. It was ugly, you know, and you really thought that this was a relationship that was, you know, torn for life. So the fact that all three parties here pretty much made peace with each other, you know, makes me at least happy for the futures of these legends and the peace in their lives. So I'm happy that they are where they are today. But looking back at some of the stuff they did back then, I just got to hand it to Matt, you know, to go out there and, you know, have to let a guy that betrayed you beat you bloody and senseless, you know, is just takes an incredible amount of professionalism. And I don't know if I would have that same professionalism. We'll then move on to another crazy fucking match. This is a tag team match between Ric Flair and Triple H. They're taking on Carlito and Chris Masters. Now, Triple H, JR kept saying that Triple H returns tonight. The game returns. I don't remember why he was out. I guess he might have had a small injury or something like that, but apparently he was off of TV for a little while. Made his return in this tag team match with his boy, Ric Flair, who at the time was Intercontinental Champion. I'd almost forgotten about the quick IC title run that Ric Flair had back then, which was great. And the two of them go in there and have a match. There's sledgehammers involved. Flair at one time even saves Triple H from being bashed in the head by Chris Masters. And Triple H and Ric Flair wind up winning the match. I think Triple H pins Carlito with the pedigree. And after the match, as they're celebrating, Triple H just blindsides Ric Flair and turns on him. And what I loved about this, Barry, is that I had said earlier that I haven't really gone back and watched this show in a long time, probably since the day it aired, and I had completely forgotten about this. So I'm watching Flair. It was like watching it for the first time. I'm watching the match, and then I see the end, and I see Triple H turn on him, and I'm like, holy shit, I had forgotten that happened. And Triple H was unmerciful with his assault on Ric Flair. It was disturbing. It was uncomfortable. If we saw anything like this in 2018, fans would be shitting themselves. So Triple H beats the fuck out of Ric Flair on the outside of the ring. Blood everywhere. I mean, uncomfortable amounts of blood. It's all over Ric Flair's face. It's all over Triple H's face. And everybody's asking, why? Why did you do this, Triple H? And I guess they go to a commercial, and when they come back, Triple H is still kicking Ric Flair's ass all throughout the back. I don't know where the security was. I don't know where the officials, the referees, management, police, riot squad, snipers. I mean, what the fuck's going on here that Triple H is allowed to drag Ric Flair's bloody corpse up the ramp, through Gorilla, into the parking garage, continue beating the shit out of him? It's almost attempted murder. I mean, it really is attempted murder when you look at it. Finally, Triple H throws Ric Flair not in the back of an ambulance where he should be, but in the back of a limousine, and then smashes the window out with a sledgehammer, and the limousine drives away. So I hope that limousine drove to the fucking hospital, because that made no sense. I mean, it was crazy and dramatic and bloody and hardcore and violent, which a lot of fans love that in wrestling, but it really lacked a lot of logic. And this would be the beginning of what was actually a really great little feud between the two. And it's one that kind of got deleted from my memory. I completely forgot about these matches. I remembered once I kind of saw this, and it made me laugh because I think it's also a question I got wrong. One of many questions I got wrong when I made an appearance on No DQ's YouTube channel recently to do trivia, and I only got one question out of 10 correct. And one of the questions that I was asked was something about an Intercontinental title match in a cage, and then the answer turned out to be Triple H and Ric Flair. And I was like, wow, I forgot that match even fucking happened. But it did. Happened at Taboo Tuesday. And Ric Flair won that match. He won it pretty much clean. And that was a bloody affair, too. There was just a million chair shots to the head in the finish of that match as Ric Flair escapes the cage. Great shit. And then I think they would go on to blow this off at Survivor Series in a last man standing match where Triple H would get the win. But this was a fun little program, and probably one that Triple H enjoyed doing. And it was one of Flair's kind of last hurrahs. He would only be in the ring for about 3 more years after this. And man, this was just a bloody, brutal encounter, and just it amazes me how much abuse Ric Flair has put his body through over the years. Unbelievable. Next up, we get the big legend segment in the middle of the ring. This I loved because, my God, the talent in this ring. You had Dusty Rhodes pretty much moderating or taking the lead here on the mic, speaking for everybody. And it was interesting because he had just come over from TNA. And I remember at the time, because I've always loved Dusty. Dusty has a super special place in my heart. Another guy in the ring with him was Superstar Billy Graham. My very first ever memory of wrestling in my life was the matches between those two for the WWF title in the 70s. So I have a great amount of love for Dusty Rhodes. Don't care so much for Billy Graham these days. I think he's kind of a dick. But I've always loved Dusty Rhodes. But even back then, I was a little bit apprehensive of Dusty Rhodes being back in the company. They just brought him back, and now he's talking he's been a part of the WWE for all these years. He was really instrumental in TNA during that whole Cookie Gate nonsense when they took the cookies to the WWE show. I remember Dusty Rhodes, he was very outspoken about that. So it was kind of funny to see him come into the company that he was fighting so hard against just months prior. But he would go on to have a great run there and be such a big part of the Performance Center and NXT and help shape a lot of the people that we see on TV to this day. So I am so grateful that Dusty came back into the company and stuck around for as many years as he did. But along with Dusty, we had superstar Billy Graham, like I mentioned. We had Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Harley Race, Steve Kern, Jimmy Hart, Jimmy Superfly Snuka. We had Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah, Ted DiBiase, Kevin Von Erich, Howard Finkel, Coco Beware, Tony Gurria, Hillbilly Jim, Nikolai Volkov, Arn Anderson, Ricky Steamboat, Sergeant Slaughter, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Dean Malenko, Pat Patterson, and Dr. Death, Steve Williams. I guess they were bringing in anybody they could get, and they got a pretty great array and assortment of talent there. Just looking at that ring was fucking incredible. So Dusty's out there cutting his promo. They get interrupted by Rob Conway, who was in the middle of his kind of singles push at this time, kind of like the arrogant, jacked up, greased up fucking douche. And he comes out there and starts making fun of everybody's age, and you know what's coming. He gets in the ring with 20 legends, and he gets his ass kicked. He winds up catching a bionic elbow from Dusty Rhodes. Kevin Von Erich put the claw on him, and then Jimmy Superfly Snuka climbs to the top rope and nails Conway with the Superfly Splash, and it was so funny to see the legends' reactions. I remember looking at Harley Race and the sheer amusement on his face after Snuka hit that splash. It was great. So that was a fun segment. I probably enjoyed that more than the Stone Cold and McMahon family segment. I really did. It was just cool to see all those guys in the ring, and a few of them have passed away now. Dr. Death is no longer with us. Jimmy Snuka passed away after he was already disgraced. Same thing with the Fabulous Moolah. Mae Young has also passed away, and so is Nikolai Volkov. But everybody else in there, I think, is still with us. And, of course, Dusty is no longer with us either. So just really cool segment there. The old school fan in me, enjoys seeing that stuff. Brought a smile to my face, and I liked it. We then get Trish Stratus and Ashley defeating Tori, Victoria, and Candice Michelle in a 2-on-3 handicap bra and panties match. So we were still in the era of the bra and panties matches. It's just kind of weird to watch this now because, with everything going on with women, especially in WWE and in the world, this is just something that doesn't age well, when you look at it. It's just all about just tits and ass. There was even a backstage segment prior to this match with Trish and Ashley where they're checking out each other's tits to make sure that they're all secure and everything. And, of course, Lawler is going apeshit on commentary during this match. Trish and Ashley are victorious in this thing, and it was a very sexy match. At least the match was, because also earlier during that backstage segment, Mae Young sees the two of them adjusting their bosoms and decides that she wants to disrobe too. A couple of legends get involved as well. DiBiase at one point offers Mae Young $2,000 to put her fucking shirt back on, which I thought was hilarious. So that was kind of funny, but that's pretty much the only thing about that whole segment and match that I really enjoyed, other than the 5 beautiful women that were involved. And my God, Tori Wilson, you are going to be the death of me. And next up was another segment that I really enjoyed just visually. Not much was accomplished in this interview, but it was still really cool to see Mean Gene Okerlund in the middle of the ring interviewing Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan made his return. He was last with the company at SummerSlam. He had the big controversial match with Shawn Michaels and that whole deal. And he was back here to do an interview with Mean Gene, references the Shawn Michaels match at SummerSlam and said he's down to do a rematch if Shawn wants, and then goes on to pretty much call out Stone Cold Steve Austin and said, what would happen if the Hulkster got in the ring with Stone Cold? And I was like, holy shit, they're actually going to do this. This would carry on into the Hall of Fame the next year at WrestleMania 22 when Austin would induct Bret Hart. And during his induction speech and when Austin was introduced, he called out Hulk Hogan, said he found a can of whoop ass in his bag with Hulk Hogan's name on it. So it felt like that was the match we might get at WrestleMania 23. And it was all kind of set up here. So I don't think that they would have had Hogan come out and do this interview and call out Austin if they didn't really have plans to do this. And on top of that, Austin was in the building, or he was previously when he was in there with the McMahons. So if they were going to do this big challenge or the beginning of this potential match, why didn't they have Austin come out there? Instead of that whole stunning McMahon family angle, why didn't they bring Austin out to confront Hogan? When Hogan's in the ring with Mean Gene saying that he wants a match with Austin, you have the glass shatter and you get the stare down between the two of them. Fuck, the show should have gone off the air with that image. You know what I mean? But it was never to be. They never went through with the match, even though it seemed like there was interest on both sides. We never got it, and it's a shame. It would have been cool if we got this a little earlier, 2002, even 2001 after the buyout would have been great. But we had a chance to get it in 05, 06, 07. It never happened. You know, even years later, there was the rumors of the Austin CM Punk match. That never happened. And at this point, I'm done. I don't really need to see Austin in the ring again. It's 2018. I think the window is closed. Unless WWE throws a couple of $1 million at him to get in the ring in Saudi Arabia on a future show, I think we are done with Austin. And it's a shame that we never got to see that Austin-Hogan confrontation. I thought it would have made for a great WrestleMania match. Now we're on to the main event, and after all the great shit we saw on this show, the big matches, the big moments, the heel turns, the surprises, the appearances, the legends, after all of that, our main event is a WWE title match between John Cena and Eric Bischoff. So Bischoff at this time was the GM of Raw. He had been so for, at least 3 years at this point, and he's got to face Cena in a one-on-one match. Now, earlier on in the show, Eric approaches Vince McMahon. He tries to get it made into a no DQ match so he could have somebody in his corner, and Vince turns him down. But after Vince got stunned and was helped out of the arena, he's not there anymore. So Bischoff changes the rules, makes the match with Cena a no disqualification match, and recruits Kurt Angle to be in his corner. So he's expecting to win the WWE title from John Cena, and he's going to have Kurt Angle's help doing it. They have a quick little match because by this point, Raw was already in overtime. JR was like, "We're in overtime. Thank you, USA Network, for sticking with us." So we knew this wasn't going to be a 15-minute match or anything like that. Win about 5. Cena wound up winning after Kurt Angle attempts to hit him with a chair, but the chair bounces off the top rope and nails Kurt in the head. And that's when Cena is able to pick up Bischoff, hit him with the AA, and get the pin. And after that, Teddy Long comes out to the stage because he's here to get some revenge. You want to know why? Because of a segment that I forgot to mention a couple of minutes ago. They were supposed to have a SmackDown representation on Monday Night Raw, so they booked a 6-man match with Chris Benoit, Rey Mysterio, and Batista taking on Christian, JBL, and Eddie Guerrero. And man, it's crazy to think that this was like 1 month before Eddie died. This was the end. He was right in the middle of his title program with Batista. Word on the street was they were planning to put the belt on Eddie at the end of this, but that was not to be because about 5 or 6 weeks later, Eddie would pass away, and it's just horribly sad to see this was one of Eddie Guerrero's final WWE appearances. But the 6-man match never gets underway because once all 6 guys make their entrances, Eric Bischoff comes out to the stage and stops the match and turns the lights out on him. He said, "Lights out. This is not your show. This is Monday Night Raw, and Vince McMahon may have wanted you here, but he's left the building, so I'm in charge, and I'm saying this match is not going to happen. Turn off the fucking lights." So Teddy Long comes out at the end of the main event with all of the SmackDown talent. They hit the ring and they start beating the shit out of John Cena and Kurt Angle, and then the entire Raw locker room empties out, and the show goes off the air with a full roster brawl. Probably a pretty fitting way for WWE to return to the USA Network. They do a lot of these big multi-man brawls, you know, in a lot of go-home shows before Royal Rumbles or before any big 10-man tag at a pay-per-view. You know the type of situations that they usually do these on. And Barry, you told me in your video request that this was your favorite Monday Night Raw ever, I believe. Didn't you tell me that? So I gotta say, this one's up there. I don't know if it's my favorite ever, but it's up there just based on the sheer volume of star power on this show. I mean, you had everybody there. You had Stone Cold there. You had Shawn there. You had Hogan there. Triple H and Ric Flair had a match. You had a shit ton of legends on hand. The only guy missing was The Rock. Would have been really cool to see him there. But all in all, I give this show a thumbs up. It was a really good Monday Night Raw. So if you have not gone back and taken a look at the show in some time, take a look at it. It's fun. Pull it up on the WWE Network. I did incidentally watch the network version. I do have the original broadcast because I did tape this on a VHS tape back in 2005, and I have it on a DVD, but I never ripped it to my hard drive, so I didn't have it like easy access, so I just pulled up the network and watched that version instead. So if there was anything missing or edited out, I probably didn't catch that, but still, it was a very, very entertaining broadcast. So that pretty much wraps it up for this latest video. Hope you enjoyed the trip down memory lane. Let me know all your thoughts about this. What was your favorite moments on the show? What did you like? What did you dislike? What are your memories about some of these feuds? You know, the Matt and Edge feud, the Triple H and Flair feud, Shawn and Angle, everything that went on here, I thought was pretty amazing. And it just makes you sad how great shit was and how, it's a struggle to get through Raw now, 13 years later. Where back then it was pretty fucking easy. This show blew by. When I was watching it on the network, I was entertained pretty much the whole time. So very good stuff. Thank you again, Barry, for your contribution and for the video request. This was another fun one to do. I've got a couple of more in the works that should be up between now and Survivor Series. I also have a couple of Survivor Series reviews in the works as well that I want to release between now and then. And then after that, any more donations videos that I do will probably be coming in late November, early December. So keep that in mind if you do want to participate. So you guys take care. Thanks again for listening, and I will catch you very soon. Until next time, peace.